So we're doing this exercise 1, which is write a generic method that exchange the positions of two different elements in an array. And I'd like to show you different ways how to do that, but let's just create a new project. I'm going to call it week 7 generics exercise 1. Now I'd like to have a method that is going to be swapping the position of two elements in an array. Well, there are different ways how to do that. I will just make, you know what, I'm going to declare something different. I'm going to declare an array of int here. That is going to be my array, and later on I'm going to change that to whatever, something else. But this, I'm going to make it static because I'd like to be using it here by just displaying the array. But how to display the array? You know what, I'm going to copy what we did before. This, the method that is going to get any array and display it. This is this show array, which is going to be a generic method displaying any array that is given to it. So I'd like to show the array before and after. So show the array, and then I have the array here, and then copy and paste again. But of course it has to be a class data type, so I'm going to change that to integer like that. Then I will just in between, I will just call a method that is going to be swapping the position of the two arrays. Okay, hold on. Swap position, let's say 1 or 1 with the 5 with 4, and then display the array again. But there's no swap now for now. What I'm going to do, I'm just going to make the swap regardless of if it's going to be static, generic or not. I'm just going to make it work with any data type. So this is going to be void. It's going to make it work only with the integer data type, with the int, and then I'm going to call it swap. And int, it takes value position 1, and I need another thing is position 2. So because I need two positions, and I'm going to swap elements between the two positions. In order for me to do that, well, I need to get the data type of this array. Well, because I would like to have, remember, if I'd like to swap something, I need a temp. And in the temp, I'm just going to use the array of position 1 that I'm going to store into the temp. And then the array of position 1, inside of it, I'll put the array of position 2. And then the position 2 will have what's inside of temp. And that's how I can swap between these two positions, right? So now if I run this thing, well, of course, if I run it now, there's nothing in the array. Let me just put something in the array. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. That will be enough. So if I run this thing, I am swapping position 1 with position 4. So this is 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. So that means this one is going to be swapped with this one, which is actually what is happening for ints. Now if I wanted to work with any data type, now I want this to be working with any data type. So put a t, because now I want to put t, but the t, this is not where you put it. It should be before the return type. And now, instead of this temp to be an int, I want it to be whatever it is, whatever t. But there's a problem. Why is this? Because now I'm putting array, which is like this int here, inside here, but this is a t, it's different data type. Well, what I can do is that instead of doing something like this, I need to give the array as a parameter, and what I'm going to do is that my array here, I'm going just to put, it's going to be t of my array, so I don't need to call it like that. So the array is basically, let me just remove this from here and paste it down, because I want it to be known inside. Now I'm going to give that array inside the swap and give the two positions, So now this is going to work with regardless of what kind of data type it is. Now if this is integer, it's going to work. Now what if it's a string? Well, I'm just going to try to put this is okay, A, B, I don't know, C, D, E. I think I have enough to do the swapping between 1 and 4. So 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. So I'm going to swap this one with this one, and here it is. So it can be now any data type, and it will just swap them. Yes.
Can I remove the int question?
The int question? What do you mean int?
Int.
Where's the int? Here? Oh, well, you remove it to what?
T.
To put t? Well, that's a problem, because you see, this is an array. What is the data type of the index inside of an array?
String.
The index data type is a string?
You made string.
I made string what? The values inside, or the number of boxes are inside the array? So the number of boxes, does it change data type?
It's 1, 2.
This is 0, 1, 2, 3, whatever. Is it going to change to something else? Or regardless of the data type of your array, it is always going to be an int. All the time. Because that's how an array works. An array means you can, if you have an array, you can specify how many elements you have in that array. You can specify the data type that goes inside. But here it's always 0, 1, 2, etc. until the size minus 1. And these are always integer numbers. So that's why this will always stay as int. Alright? I'd like to show you something that's as an extra thing. You see this show array, it just displays using a loop, right? There's something else that you can do with that same thing, but I'd like to maybe show this to you. This is what actually NetBeans is talking about. It says use enhanced for loop to iterate over the array. What is that? What does this mean? If I click on it, this is going to convert it to something like this. I'm going to rename this to something like this is how this works. Now this, when you have an array, you can use this kind of loop. Now what does this say? I'm going to declare element of type t. Why t? Well, because the array is type t. T is the type of the array. And for every element in the array, this is the parameter. This is where the values are. And I'm saying for every element in that array, take that element, store it inside this variable element, and then what I'm doing with it, I'm just displaying it. So you don't need a for I or something, because you don't need to declare a variable I. You just need to get an element, and then you get it and you display it. So this, what it does, this is referred to as for each. For each element in the array, it's going to take the array one by one until the end, and you do whatever you want to do with it. Yes?
So if the size changes, it will change the one iterations.
You don't need to care about the size, because it just cares about it. This for loop is going to start from the beginning until the end. However, if you have a for loop that you'd like to start at some place and only some parts, this is not good for you, because this loop will always start from the beginning until the end. Every element one by one is going to be taken and put inside this variable that you declare here. Just to make it simple, so you can get it, easily, I just would like to change that to something else. I'm not going to make it generic. Let's say it's int. If I have an array of int, you just represent it this way. So you take an int, this is an array of ints, so we have a lot of ints. You take an int from that array, the first one, and then you put it inside element, and then you display it. Then you go to the next one, you put it inside element, and then you display it, and so on. You keep doing this until the end of the array. That's how it works. So this is the generic version of it. instead of int, it's just t, what t is a data type. That's all what is the difference. But this is just to show you that this is another way to have a for loop that iterates, especially if you have an array, or what generally is referred to as a collection of data. But that's a side story. What we wanted is something like this swap, which is having an array of any kind of data type, and then but we need this to be int and int, because we need these two positions to be in int. Then I just declare a temporary variable from that same data type of that array, and then make sure that I don't get mixed up with the swapping. Whenever you use a position, this is the if you see, I stored in temp the position 1, the value at position 1. The first thing that I'm going to change is position 1, and then I put inside of it whatever is position 2, and then position 2, it's going to have what temp has. Yes.
So can I put in swap 0 and array length -1?
Can you put where in the swap? 0,
Line 22.
line 22. Here, yes, of course. You can put 0, and yes, you can put array dot length -1. This is clever to say. I just would like to change the first one and the last one. Yeah, that's good. It's just going to change the first one with the last one. But if I do something like this, array index out of bound exception. So maybe what I could do, I could just have a try catch, or I can ask a question: is the position 1 within the range? Is it unacceptable? Is it a good value or not? Well, what if someone gives me -1? So anyways, this is not the purpose of this exercise. This exercise is about practicing generic methods. But we could do more with this exercise to make it bulletproof by checking that these positions, this variable 1 and variable 2, are correct. How can I know that they are correct? Well, I can do something. Let me show you something nice. I can do like an if position 1 is negative, or, well, obviously or is like that, position 2 is also negative. If one of them is negative, I can throw a new exception. I'm making this negative array size exception, something like that. And I can send as a message the position cannot be negative. Now, if someone gives me some fancy numbers like these, I'm going to throw an exception. That means I'm going to say that, okay, this is the position cannot be negative, and I can just maybe do this into a try catch and something like that. But anyways, and how to know if it's within the boundaries? I can just say, okay, maybe another if. I need to do that for every position. Let's say if position 1 greater than array dot length -1, that means this is out of the bound of the array, so I can just send another message or whatever. So this is something I don't want to bother with. I just wanted you to go and do something like that. Just practice working with methods that are generic. And I can do something nice as well. If I would like to have an overloaded method like this, where if I call this swap with no positions, I will just do something like this: 0 and then array dot length -1. So which means if you just give me just the array, I'm just going to swap the first with the last. If you give me the array and a position, I'm just going to swap whatever position I want. If I'd like to swap with the 0, 1 and 2, now it's going to swap the second and the third. So anyways, this is just what I meant with this, is that a method, generic method, is a method. It can be overloaded like as you can see here, and it's mainly a method that everything that applies to a method applies to it. The only difference is that there's a data type that can be changed. Is that okay?